Een hele goede avond. Van harte welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van Next Level Soul Talks. En waarbij we praten over mediumschap en allerlei verschillende onderwerpen om mediumschap helder te maken. Mijn naam is Danielle Nijhuis. Ik ben eigenaresse van Mediumschool Soulconnections in Enschede. En vanavond heb ik live te gast niemand minder dan medium Martin Jones. Martin woont en werkt in Engeland en daarom zal dit gesprek vanavond ook verder op zijn Engels zijn. Mocht het zijn dat je een aantal dingen niet begrijpt, ik zou zeggen, vraag het dan, want dan kunnen we het vertalen. Wellicht dat Kimberly ook nog even aanwezig is en mee kan typen om dingen te vertalen. Maar ik ga vanaf nu af aan verder op zijn Engels. En ik zou zeggen, geniet en wees zo vrij om je vragen te stellen. Want vanavond gaan we het hebben over de emoties in evenwicht tijdens het contact maken met een overleden dierbare. Good evening, Martin.
Good
Very
evening.
welcome.
I'm just sharing the video. Just 1 second.
Good.
Good evening.
Good evening, Martin. Thank you very much that you are willing to talk with me tonight, especially about mediumship, of course. That's why we're here for. Please, could you take a moment to introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, what you're doing?
Yes. So, hello. I'm Martin Jones. I from London. I work as a medium and meditation mindfulness teacher, instructor. I'm from a family of mediums and healers. My mum, Margaret Jones, she's been a medium for about 25 years. People that were very close to me, like grandparents, Marjorie and Tom, were healers. I've got a picture of Tom here.
Cool.
Very, very wonderful man who I love very much. He's in the spirit world now. So it was always very natural and normal that the spirit world was just as real as this one. But when I was about 18, I said to Mum, I want to be a medium. And she kind of said to me, you're too young. She said, live, travel, get some life experience first. So I stood there and thought, okay, when I'm 30, I'll start my formal training, if you like. And that was about 10 years ago. So I've been working professionally for about 8 years now.
Wow.
Work across the UK, love working in Scotland, go to Japan 3-4 times a year. And I just love my work.
That's interesting because I don't think a lot of mediums will travel to Japan to teach mediumship.
There is a growing interest there. Very different philosophical, religious, cultural backgrounds, really. But I think the Japanese people, they're just getting a lot more interested in talking to their loved ones, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do. So, yeah.
And do you think then, because going back to what you said before, that you're from a family who were into mediumship, as your mother is a medium herself for 25 years, and a lot of healers in your family, do you think, or I have an idea about that when you find the soul pathway to mediumship, that it is genetical in the family somewhere?
I think there's a couple of levels to the question, really, because I know me, my mum, Tom and Marjorie, we've spent many lifetimes together, so that connects our souls. So then it's naturally going to be in our genetics because we're born into the same genetic groups, if you like. They often say it runs in the family. Well, my mother told me many years ago that it often skips a generation. So you'll often find a lot of mediums' grandparents were very mediumistic, and things like that. So it goes back to that question, really, are mediums born or made? I certainly don't have all of the answers to that, but I believe in reincarnation, and I believe that it's a sensitivity that we develop over many different experiences that gives us that sensitivity to focus our attention more on the spirit world. You know, everybody should be capable of at least being aware of the spirit world, but then different individuals will have more ability to go a little bit deeper.
Okay. And you are coming to the Netherlands, and we know each other for quite a while now. We have worked before in a demonstration, and I think we could say to each other and to the viewers that we have a kind of a similar way of looking into things and how the spirit world intermingle with our lives. But when I asked you to talk with me, I said to you, I really want you to give some of advice or tips of ideas when you working in your development and the spirit world will come close. It can be very emotional. What is your advice to those who are listening or looking to us, how to get the emotions, your own emotions in balance, and how to get the emotions in balance when the spirit world is coming so close?
I think, you know, most people that have a good level of ability to develop mediumship are very sensitive people, you know, and being sensitive isn't easy. Because you're affected by, if people are mean to you, it hurts you more. If you see bad things, it can hurt you more. We can also take things more personally if we're very sensitive, you know, and it can be a little bit difficult. But it's better than being the opposite, like a stone, like just hard and, you know, not emotional. But I think that, you know, over our lifetimes, we learn to understand that emotion. For me, my mother always told me, keep things as simple as possible, and it's advice within spiritual work I have always adhered to. I personally don't like it when people overcomplicate things, you know, and give things all fancy names and just complicate it. It's very commercial. So I just think to keep things simple. And you know, we touch many people's lives, you know, and I'm referring to the spirit people, and we can be like a mirror and all of their emotions can reflect on us, but we need discipline to be able to manage that, really. And sometimes it takes a long time to understand that, but it's also about having the mindset of not being dramatic. You know, for example, and I don't mean to be critical, sometimes if we're working clairsentiently and somebody had a bad chest and we work, you know, maybe shortness of breath for a couple of seconds and our mind goes to their chest, you know, then we let it go, don't we? But you will see occasionally a medium that's walking around the stage for 10 minutes, you know, and it's just holding on to things too long. So I've always been a believer that it's a privilege to understand and connect with these spirit people, but we can't take ownership of their memories, their thoughts and their feelings. So really, everybody's different, but I think it's just about trying to be as grounded as possible. And really, I remember years ago, I've heard it a few times when I was at workshops, people saying, is it okay to cry when you're doing a private reading? Now, some people will say in some circumstances it's okay because it's empathy and it shows caring. Of course, when you're working, but on the other side of that, you also have to be strong and supportive. So, but when you're working publicly, you can't be all over the place emotionally. And I just feel it's about, if we have the intention to be disciplined, to be focused and things like that. But it's also about when we're training, and we're always training our whole life, you know that, but I'm talking about the early stages of development. to be able to talk to somebody, you know, that's been through those experiences and can give that advice, you know. And it's great if people are learning mediumship, if when they go to workshops and things like this, they make friends with people so they can talk about things. And I think if we express our thoughts and opinions more, then we don't bottle them up, which is more healthy.
I agree. I totally agree. But then again, sometimes it will happen that you feel somebody from the spirit world, and when you are clairsentience, dus heldervoelend, you will feel the love and you will feel it in your physical body, and then how to get back in control, that it's not about you, but that you just represent those in the spirit world who only wants to be heard again. I'm sorry for my English.
No, it's fine.
It's funny.
But as you say, you know, it's about not taking ownership, you know, and when we're the medium between the recipient and the spirit world. And the more we realize it's not about us, we're just trying to facilitate and deliver the information as accurately and kindly as possible. But yes, things do get to us sometimes because we're human.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point, that we are human. There are already some viewers, and Kimberly is looking. This is Kimberly van Egmond. She is one of my students, and sometimes we talk on this channel about the wisdom of silver birch, and I'm going to ask her if she is able to type in the bottom a sentence of what you have said. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Dus Kimberly, ik zou je willen vragen of jij, als je zit te luisteren, eventueel een kort kan schrijven over wat Martin aangegeven heeft. Met name voor de mensen die het niet begrijpen. So Martin, within your development, you were very lucky that your mother had worked for the spirit world for such a long time. You have said you worked in Japan, and I think that we are lucky here in the Netherlands that we have beautiful places and centers where we can develop our own mediumship and sensitivity to a greater standard to being service for the spirit world. What would you advise to those who are sensitive and feel the presence of the spirit world but don't know? What kind of advice would you give people to do as a step to listen to what they feel and what is occurring? Not at the time when they're already in development, but just before, when they are sensitive.
Well, it can be overwhelming, you know, and it can be quite confusing, you know, different thoughts, feelings, different sensitivity, different energies. Some people say mediumship is so natural you don't need training and the spirit world will teach you. But I see that point of view, but it's helpful when a person that is experienced can help you understand, to feel the spirit world clearer, to know more when it is the spirit world and when it's your mind. So I believe very strongly that really someone in that position needs to seek advice from an experienced medium. There are lots of people that call themselves mediums, but I would advise someone that you know has a good reputation. Somebody that maybe works publicly or that does private readings, but as I said, that's got a good reputation, that you feel is a nice person, because they can be the best teacher in the world, but if you don't connect with them, You know, you're not going to ask the questions and feel open. So yeah, really, it's to seek advice from. In England, people have more opportunity because there's spiritualist churches. You know, most people don't live too far from a spiritualist church.
Yeah,
you know,
you're lucky.
And people will always be willing to help people. You know, I've been at spiritualist churches. You know, I work at many, and sometimes you see someone come in and they look a little bit nervous, you know, and someone will normally go up to them and ask if they're okay. And so really just to get the advice from people that have been through that and can understand.
Yeah, because still a lot of people in the Netherlands. I'm talking about the Netherlands. You're living in the UK. You're lucky that there are a lot of churches and a lot of circles.
And sometimes you see someone come in and they look a little bit nervous, you know, and someone will normally go up to them and ask, sorry.
What was that?
Oh, Facebook was open. I was just checking it was streaming. And
I thought I hear voices.
It's not them.
Oh, this is nice. I will go on in a minute. I have somebody was asking a question, Melody. Okay, I need to read what she is asking. I think it's something about fear. I have a question. I try to be a mum. I try to get children for 8 years, but it's not working. In my feeling, I can't accept it because of other people have children, but they treating their children bad. How is it possible that I want to be a mom, or how is it possible that other people's being mom? I think this question is more about how life is not fair sometimes.
It's not fair.
How do we accept that when the spirit world is there, that still things happen in life? Maybe you can give a little bit of your view about it.
I mean, life isn't easy. I've always believed since I was a child that the earth is a school and we come here to learn. And unfortunately, you know, you mentioned Silver Birch earlier, and beautiful wisdom from Silver Birch and Maurice Barbanel. And I was reading something the other day, and I'm not quoting it exactly because I have a bad memory, but it's like he suggested that through suffering we get the greatest growth. Now that doesn't always help at the time, and it can frustrate somebody if you said that to them in a difficult situation. But we go through many lessons in this life, and by suffering, the people that love us can express compassion and develop their compassion. When people we care about or strangers suffer, and it gives us the chance to help them. So it gives us the chance to learn to be more loving is one thing, I think, why bad things happen sometimes. We don't always understand why, you know, and nobody will always have those answers, but things do happen for a reason. And I've always known and believed that. And one day we'll understand why these things happen. So I know it's hard for her. And, you know, there's two ways of looking at it, because you can be frustrated that other people have having children and you don't, and you can be angry at them. Or you can also, it might be hard, but you can also look at that. You wouldn't want everybody to suffer, you know, just because you are. So it's difficult. And I hope you've got people close to you that will support you and express love to you in this difficult situation.
Yeah, she's also saying that has to do with reincarnation. You said you believe in reincarnation. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm not saying I don't believe it. But within mediumship, if we're talking about the spirit world in a private sitting or in a platform way of demonstrating, I can't prove reincarnation.
Fair enough.
No. So that's not a thing what I want to work out deeply with this question.
No.
I hope this lady finds someone to talk with the loss and grief, because I do believe that a lot of things within mediumship has to do with grieving and accepting things in life we can't control. Sometimes things happen just for a reason that the soul essence has something, we don't know why. Good. Als er iemand anders is die een vraag heeft met betrekking tot mediumschap en ontwikkeling, wees vrij om uw vraag te stellen. That's good. Kimberly is translating everything in Dutch underneath, so people can read in Dutch what you and I would say. So how do you prepare yourself to blend with the spirit world before you work? Do you have a particular way of preparing yourself? Or many times I talk about sitting in the power with my students, but maybe you can share how you do that.
You know, it's changed over the years. You know, when I first would go to a spiritualist church to do a service with mediumship, I would like to get there, you know, about an hour early. I would like to go and sit in a quiet room and not be disturbed, and sit in the power for half an hour and build my confidence and things. But then you start going to places that don't have that little spare room and things like that. So I do like to sit with spirit, you know, maybe a couple of evenings a week for about half an hour and just sit and blend. But what I realized, I used to go to a lot of demonstrations, and I would sit with spirit, you know, before and start working. But I realized I didn't sit with myself, you know, and that is extremely important to me, because from the moment we're born, our awareness is outside of our body, the sounds, the smells, the sensations, also thinking about the past and the future. And, you know, it's like our awareness is scattered everywhere. And, you know, when I got more into mindfulness and meditation, and particularly body awareness meditation, I realized I want to feel all these different people's energy and personalities from spirit, but I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
So if I might sit for a little while and just bring my awareness in and get a sense of how my energy feels and focus on that. If I don't have time, I'll do it walking down the street, you know. And once I feel I've brought my awareness to me, then I'll ask the spirit world to come close. What it took me a long time to realize is that I used to look at it as this world and the spirit world, but I now believe there's more, because we've got this world and the spirit world and that divine power. Some people express it as God. So I always now ask the spirit world to also bring that divine power into the mediumship, and for it to be as loving as possible. So what used to confuse me, sometimes you may agree, sometimes you're going to demonstrate and you blend with spirit and you feel so much power. You feel the spirit world so much. Other times when I demonstrate, I do the same process, but I don't feel them as much. But once you trust that they're there, they're always going to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. It's so true. I have a question. I saw it. I need to scroll down. Somebody is asking something, I think in German. I don't waar zie die zwei. I really don't know what it is. I think she's asking, where are you both? I guess so. We're not going to do this in German. I think translating, writing into Dutch and speaking in English is enough for today. But I have a question from Tekla, and she is asking you how when we're talking about balance within your emotions, within mediumship, how big is the part of your age? As I know Tekla very well, she is, oh, don't get me wrong, I'm not sure how old she is, but she's a little bit older than I am, but she's very stable within her mediumship, and sometimes she's wondering, is it my age, or is it that somebody who is younger has more problems with the emotions?
I mean, everybody's lives are so different. You know, you could have an 18-year-old that is wonderfully balanced. But I think in general, the older we get, the more life experience we get, the more understanding and accepting we get of things. So it's logical, I think, to think that the older we get, the calmer we get. You know, not necessarily, but for most people.
Okay. I think it's thinking about it, it's normal that when you're a little bit older and you have life experience, that's not only has to do with mediumship. Generally in life, when we are a little bit older and we have life experience, we don't think so much about what other people think, and that, bear in mind that feeling of what other people think. How do you look at it? You know, you're living in a country where spiritualism is strongly, a lot of churches. How is that feeling of competition? Is there a competition? And how do you stay within yourself and your unique way of working and blending? Because I don't believe it's only in the Netherlands. I think it's everywhere.
I think in all walks of life there's competition. But what I have thought for many years, with many, mediumship is a vocation more than a profession. But if we look at different professions, you know how good you are at most jobs. You know your level of competency at most jobs. But within mediumship, we never really know, you know. And it really taught me that when you have a really good demonstration, you can't let it go to your head, because when you have one you're not so happy with, you've got to pay all that back, you know, and it's like a seesaw. And you know, if you look, there was a psychologist called Carl Rogers, and he wrote about conditions of worth. And it's really our personal values on our, how we're seen by people and how we're regarded by people. And as human beings, we need positive regard. We need people to praise us and to like us. I think very strongly that if we put too much of our self-worth on our mediumship, then our self-esteem is so attached to the results that it's not healthy for people, and it can make people more competitive. I said many years ago to my guides and my friends in the spirit world that I'd had a pretty bad day and someone had upset me, and I said to them, it was probably about 8 years ago, I said, I'll give you my time, my dedication and my honesty, and let's just do the best that we can, you know. And my value as a person is from my friends and the people that love me and the people that I care about and enjoying life and new experiences. And I try to make my self-worth not too attached to my mediumship, you know. And that way, if we can't be so open to other people's opinions, you know, particularly within mediumship, because you will have given many messages and, you know, the people have said no, but you see them a year later and they say, I did have that family member and that did happen. And, you know, I asked my mother and things like that. So again, sometimes we give information that's not always understood and things like that. So as I said, I just don't think that we can attach our ego too much to our mediumship, because our egos are fragile, and mediumship, it's not tangible. So you can't put levels on it like you can with most things. If that makes sense. I feel I'm rambling a little bit there.
No. I completely understand, and I see within the translation with Kimberly, she is explaining it very, very well. So I have another question from Najee. I'm going to look if I can read it. How is it possible that one person reacts very emotional in the physical body and in the mind, and the other person not, when the spirit world is coming close? Because everybody has emotion. Is that depending on the contact or on the well-being of the mind of the medium on that moment?
I mean, it can certainly be influenced very much by the well-being of the mind, but people are so different. We all react completely differently to different events and different situations in life. You know, we all communicate differently. Some people are very expressive. They won't stop talking. Some people hardly say a word. Some people are very animated. You know, some people are not. So we all just react so differently. But if somebody is so sensitive and they can't get a handle on it, maybe at that point in their life, mediumship isn't the most helpful thing for them to be doing. It doesn't mean that they can't do it a bit later on in life, but we have to look after our mental and physical health. And if too much stimulus is too much for somebody, then maybe it's not the right time.
Yeah, I know. And I know Najee personal, and I know that she is a very passionate, I think, passionate about serving the spirit world, but within her own personality, she really wants to do the good thing instead of allowing it to happen. So I know where this question is coming from. But then again, it's a very clear answer. We are all different. We all work differently. We communicate differently. So thank you for that answer. You'll never be the best or fully there. Love that explanation. Yeah, that's true. You're never the best or fully there. I totally agree with that. We're never ready. When we are ready, we're ready for the spirit world, I think. So this is all translating. Okay, so do you have a memory of one of the contact you had with somebody in the spirit world you remember till today as the most beautiful and strongest evidential for you, that you know for sure the spirit world is there?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of. I generally don't like to talk about messages afterwards, but I will a little bit. No, I'm happy to a little bit, you know. But just different ones, you know, with different bits of information. One of the readings that always stands out because of the immediate effect it had on a lady. A lady came to see me at my mum's house, actually, for a reading. And I will generally ask people who they would like to speak to. Of course, I explain nothing's guaranteed, but there's no harm in inviting them. And she wanted to speak to a gentleman. And the reading was fine, but it wasn't from who she wanted to hear from. And at the end of the reading, I said, I'm just not getting him, you know, and explained why that may be the case to make her feel comfortable. And she said, but do you not see anything about his family? And all this information came in. And she said, do you not see where he lives? And loads of information come in. But I will never forget it, because she said to me that she couldn't, because of the relationship, she couldn't get much access to what happened from his family. And she, for about over 10 years, had so much grief that he'd been dead in his apartment, you know, in his flat for days. And I remember saying, I said he died on June the 13th. And I've given lots of dates accurately, but what was so special about that one, I literally saw that 10 years of worry and anxiety that had happened to him just lift, you know. And it was so special. And it's not about me or I got this right or that right. It's just that effect it had and the benefit it gave for her. Another thing that was quite special that happened recently, while I was working in Japan last time, and I was giving a lady a reading, and I remember that week in Tokyo, lots of wonderful evidence from spirit guides, and and it was beautiful, really connecting lots of people with their guides. And I'd just given a lady a message from her spirit guide, and he showed me something that she had in her purse, and that was his evidential thing, and the information fitted very well. So after we'd discussed that, I won't go into that because it's a bit personal for her. I said, what would you like to talk about next? I said, you'd like to talk about your cats, wouldn't you? And she said, yes. And I said, you've got, I can't remember, 3 or 4 cats. And she said, yes. But I said, you're worried about the little one. I said, because it's having a lot of stomach problems. It's very, very nervous. And so this is psychic, not mediumship, this one. The cat's very nervous and it's having a lot of diarrhea everywhere. And you're very worried. And she said, yes, I've been to the vet and they don't know what to do. But I said to her, the problem is because it's so much smaller than your other cats, when it's eating, it's terrified that the other cats are going to hurt it and take its food. So I said, if you feed this cat separately from the other 3, you'll see an amazing difference. And then maybe after a week when I was at home, she'd messaged the people I work with and said that the cat was so much happier and so much better. And I was just so happy that I was able to help that little cat, not the most profound thing, but I remember thinking I would have happily flown there and done that just to help the cat, So yeah, there's different things really, but those are the 2 that spring to mind.
Yeah, but then you talk about what you had experienced within readings, but what was that profound thing for you in your development that makes a mediumship? Again, you have a family where you have grown up, you have a very spiritual mother, so you are blessed with that. What was that thing that you needed to get that from believing to the knowing that the spirit world exists?
I remember 3 or 4 times as a child very, very vividly and physically seeing people at home. So I never redoubted the spirit world. Having said that, I'm very into science, and I spent a couple of years really looking at as much quantum physics as I could actually understand, which wasn't that much because it gets to a point and it's too much. But where I started getting so much into science and looking into more scientific views of consciousness, it jumbled everything up, and made me question everything. And that's not a bad thing. But about 6 months ago, I thought, I'm done with all the science for now, because I just want my love of the spirit world, and I don't want to try and understand the physics of energy anymore. I'm done with it now. But within my own mediumship, it just, from your training yourself, that it's so hard, and our confidence always is rock bottom sometimes. And then we give information and no. But when you give someone a contact from their mum or someone, and you can express that love and the recipient can feel it, that is better than 1,000 no's. And yourself that slowly you start getting more right, and then you just experience things. I have no doubt whatsoever that the spirit world are with us. You know, I it's not a far away place. It's here, it's everywhere, you know. And there is no physical distance. So our loved ones are no further than our thoughts.
Yeah, because we're talking a lot about, a lot of other mediums are talking about the two worlds comes together. But the more I am going into the depth of it, try to understand it in the way I can perceive it in my understanding, I would say there are no two worlds. It is just one world.
I think that's how I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So I love the way you're saying that you have tried to understand the quantum physics of energy, because I have done that too, and I stopped it because it will activate a part in my brains that makes me more thinking about things than allowing the spirit world to come through. So you're saying that you also, when you're doing readings in Japan, you make contact with guides. As I know, for where spiritualism as a religion in your country is, it's not allowed to talk about guides. I prefer to say friends, but in the Netherlands, guides would be more understandable for what they are, as they are just energy and they're friends. So you are able to see or to give an impression of one of many when you're doing reading?
When I was younger, because when I can't remember how old I was, maybe around 18 or 20, I wasn't working professionally as a medium, but I'd go and help my mum teach and help with the beginners and things. And if there were 20 students in the room, I would see about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guides, not with everybody, but I would just see them standing with people. But as I got older, our mediumship changes and the different facets come out. I saw the guides less and less, and I lost interest in many ways. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it wasn't an area of the spirit world or our relationship with them I was very, very focused on. My guide Shen is Chinese. A very interesting experience I had. I used to talk to him a lot when I was younger. Not as a child, but, you know, a young adult. And I remember one day getting quite cross and saying, "Are you my imagination? Are you me from a past life? Who are you? What are you?" And he said to me, "We're brothers of consciousness." And it just felt right, you know. But I was doing a demonstration in Wales, and I hadn't had the best week with the demonstrations I'd done so far. But I went to a beautiful spiritualist church, and Shen was standing with me. I was outside smoking, and I said, "Where have you been for the last couple of years?" Because I hadn't thought too much about him. But he said to me, he said, "I had to step back for you to learn more about mediumship. Now you've learned more, I can come and help you." Which I just thought was really interesting, because that's not the way we're taught about things. But then, as I said, while the last couple of trips to Japan, I got much more interested in, I just thought before I went a few trips ago, I thought you need to read a couple of Ed Casey books. And then I listened to a couple of audio books about past lives and the Akashic records, I think. And it's obviously meant to have been at that time, because I was seeing wonderful things with people about past lives and from spirit guides, but evidential things. I remember saying to a lady, she was asking about guides, and then I saw 3 standing there. and there was like a Maasai African warrior. And I said, he's got a big scar on his arm. I said, let me see your arm. And she had a mark on her arm in the same place. And just little things that if you were skeptical, you would say, well, it's coincidence. But if you believe, you'd say it's mildly evidential. You know, who knows? It's about our personal thoughts and judgments of that, if you like. But lots of things with guides that made so much sense to that person. You know, I remember saying to a lady, she'd had a lot of problems, and my mind was seeing in past lives a little bit. And I remember saying to her that her and her son had lived in a lot of monasteries in Asia, but they were very low in the pecking order because I could see them cleaning and being ignored. I said, you know, you didn't have a voice. You know, your son had no opinions, and that's what you can express in this life and how you can grow. And I said to her, I said, so based on that, you must have had a stutter when you were young or been a very late speaker. And she said to me, she said she didn't learn to speak till she was 5 or 6, and her son had a terrible stutter as a child. So again, just looking at these wider aspects of our connection with the spirit world and our own soul. There's so many different things we can look at, you know. But what I was pleased with was with how things were fitting in very well with this person's life, you know, or different people.
Interesting. I think it's very interesting. I had a demonstration last Friday at my school, and I said to the spirit portrait artist I invited to come to work together, to work with the paint I have bought from Jose Medrado from Brazil. And it was just playing a bit and see what will happen. And she draw really in, I think it was 10 minutes, beautiful painting with a guide. And I felt the energy. So I think, and I could explain the things, and I could find the person where this lady from the spirit world with a sisterhood from consciousness came forward. So I think it was interesting that that happened and that you talk about these things. But I have another question. Linda, she said, saying in Dutch, a while ago, when I was in the power, when I was sitting in the power, I saw a tunnel with white light. Now I hear many other people who are passed through the spirit world talking about going to a tunnel, and myself was very oppressed about it. Do you have any explanation why I saw that? I was not afraid, but it was an experience that keeps my brain and my mind going on. Why do I see this? I have an idea, but I hope you have an answer to that.
I mean, the first thing
I will eat my macaroni.
Okay. I mean, the first thing really is that we need to have experiences that keep us going. You know, our confidence can go, you know, life can come in different distractions. But if this is an important journey for us, we have to have those magical experiences every now and then, once in a blue moon, to keep us going, to motivate us. So I think it's partly that. But what I feel is it's that it's you losing sense of yourself and really blending more with the higher consciousness, you know, and including the spirit world. And we often, everything is energy, and when we experience different energies and different levels of consciousness, as human beings, we need to be in control of that. And how we often do that is by visualization. So our awareness will often put things in visual form so we have some idea what's going on and some sense of control. So I just feel with you, with your question here, that it was really you going deeper into yourself, you know, and once you go deeper into yourself, you're more connected with everything, this life, the spirit world, you know. So it sounds like you had a nice experience. But really, what I would advise you to do, if you enjoyed it and you felt safe and comfortable, go back there. Because once we've been somewhere in this world, we know how to get back there. So without forcing it, just take yourself, sit and relax, and, you know, however you like to relax, and go into yourself and just go back there. Because you might find you get to that end of that tunnel. It doesn't mean you're going to die, but you may experience wonderful things.
I mean, on the other hand, we could say that that is that moment of peace within ourselves, what we need to blend with everything around us, including the spirit world. I know the lady who asked the question, so I'm happy with your answer because I would agree with it.
You know, sometimes when we meditate or, you know, things like that, or we sit in the power, sometimes we have quite unusual experiences. We see and sense things that maybe we're somewhere else, you know. It's going into astral traveling, all these different facets of exploration of consciousness, you know. So I just think, well done, and do it again.
Yeah, again, exactly. So I have another question. It's from Patricia. How zorg ik ervoor? How do I get the logical thinking not higher than the belief in the spirit world? And why is it so difficult if you believe in more to be in contact with the spirit world when the logical mind is coming in?
Okay, now, many people will say to have a really logical mind is not good for mediumship. I disagree.
I disagree there too.
Because if you start from a logical mind, you can always make that mind more flexible and more open. And you can still have that logic and that reason within your mediumship and develop it to fantastically. If you have no logic whatsoever, maybe you can still be really good, but you can never learn logic. But if you have logic, you can learn to relax as well. So I think to be logical is a great place. You know, to be logical keeps your feet on the ground, as we say as well, because your imagination doesn't go to one weird and wonderful sometimes. So it's just, if you feel you're too logical, the worst thing you can do is criticize yourself about it and blame yourself, because while you're doing that, it makes your energy more heavy and it's harder to get into the power with the spirit world, you know. So if people have told you being logic is bad, ignore it. It's fine. But it's just about being open to other people's experiences, you know. So nothing wrong with being logical.
I fully agree. So Najee has another question for you, and she's saying, Daniela, I know what your opinion is, but I'm just curious at the explanation of Martin. Why does a person who visits a demonstration one or more contacts in one evening and others nothing? How is there somebody in the spirit world who is deciding that, or what is deciding that will happen?
You know, it depends, because generally most people don't generally get more than one contact, but occasionally it happens. Now, if I'm working and I give a contact to somebody, you know, a message, I prefer to say, from their loved one, and then I am moving on, but the next person's also for that person, generally I'm not going to turn them away, because they've made an effort to come. So maybe that person really, really needs that extra contact. But again, it goes to people being different and everybody being different. Because if someone's got a couple of family members that are really confident and really pushy, while they're here, they'll think, well, I want to come in as well. So I know it's hard sometimes if somebody really feels they need a contact and they don't get one, and they can feel, does it mean that they're not with me? The spirit, I know it just sounds like words, but I know it to be so true. The spirit world are always with us, but it doesn't happen that often, but it's just the way it goes. It's also in the spirit world's hands. The immediate reaction, you may think it's unfair, but there may be great and deep reasons why that needs to happen, and we just accept it, and it is what it is.
It's a lot of things. I would say the same. It is what it is, and Naja would understand that too. But when you saying that and explaining that, what would you do? Because that are things what happen in the Netherlands during demonstration, and quietly short days ago, another medium where some of the people I know have visited demonstration. Somebody in the public said, I don't want this contact. Send him away. Send him away.
It's difficult because people often, if somebody has been hurt by somebody, very severely, they will all remember that person at that time and what they were like. But we have a lot more opportunity for healing and insight in the spirit world. But that person may come back, but it might be too much for that person. As a medium, it's, when that happens, you've got different options. You can say, okay, can you go? But I'd always try a little bit, and just say, even if I completely understand that, and that's okay. It depends on the situation, and it happens occasionally, but you have to respect the recipient. They're in a public environment. People have said no to everything I've said to them and come up to me after and said, actually, that was my dad or that was my husband, but it's too raw emotionally and I couldn't have coped in a public arena. And I said, it's fine, as long as they're here, and they're with you. So again, as a medium, you can't get angry. Oh, that person made me look bad. It is what it is again.
Again, it is what it is. It is what it is. So for those who are working toward a pathway to serve and stand up for the spirit world, is there an advice you could give to those in the Netherlands who are working on their mediumistic involvement and how they get the things right in the grieving on psychic and on the soul level and blending with the spirit world? As I see, it's almost 9 o'clock. So
I'll be very, very quick. I just think that it's important that we have a balanced life, that we can't focus everything on our mediumship. We have to have friendship, love, compassion, new experience, all of these things we have to have in life. And we can't put everything on the mediumship. There has to be balance, and we just have to do the best we can. But being of service to humanity and spirit, mediumship and healing is a little bit of that. Simple kindness and helping people is more important than anything, so we can all be of service by just being kind and caring to people and animals and the planet.
I totally agree with that. So I thank you very, very much for your time to share your thoughts and your experience, and I'm looking really forward to have you in my center in the end of October. Is there a website you have, because I know that you do readings also by Skype. So people, even in the Netherlands, can book a reading with you. So it is www.martinjones.com.
No, martinjones.medium. Sorry, martinjonesmedium.com.
Medium.com. So I think I put it on the comments now. Martin Jones. I think martinjonesmedium.com.
Yeah. Or Martin Jones both ways. martinjonesmedium.com or mediummartinjones.com. They both work.
Okay. I'm looking very much forward to seeing you and to pick you up from Schiphol and have a lovely weekend, demonstrate together for the spirit world. And I thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and maybe we can talk another time.
Of course, it would be a pleasure. I've really enjoyed. It's been a while, and it's been nice to catch up as well. So take care.
So, nou, dank jullie wel allemaal voor jullie vragen, voor het luisteren, ook het nadenken over de dingen die je gehoord hebt. Volgende maand zijn we er weer en dan ga ik in gesprek met Joke Hettem van de Spirituele Kerk in Amersfoort over haar missie. Begin een spirituele kerk in Nederland. En zoals je Martin net hebt horen zeggen, in Engeland heb je op bijna elke hoek van de straat een kerk. In Nederland is dat iets anders. Dus ik zou zeggen, kijk even in het event op de pagina en hou ons in de gaten, want er staan nog veel meer leuke gesprekken gepland. En voor nu dank ik jullie voor het kijken en wens ik jullie alvast een fantastische week en tot de volgende keer. Doeg!